Greetings and welcome once again to the Gaming Codex, the show right where to explain to you all the various words and terms used to describe the video games and the video games industry. And today's word is that of clone. And what exactly would that be? Well, according to a general definition, in computing, a clone is a hardware or software system that is designed to function in the same way as another system. And applied directly to video games, a video game clone is either a video game or series which is very similar to or heavily inspired by a previous popular game or series. Clones are everywhere, and I mean it, they are everywhere. We would technically not really have many of the games that are on the market today were it not for clones. One of the most popular examples of this is the first-person shooter genre, which you could say that there were a lot of well, not a lot, but enough first-person shooter-like games before Wolfenstein 3D and Doom, but in terms of what we understand them to be today, or at least what we understood them to be before they all went cinematic, linear, and not all that interesting, was more or less the formula that Doom presented. The exact formula of Doom, with the exact ideas. A clone, if you will, but not maybe a perfect one, and that's a good thing. A perfect clone would be just a carbon copy. It would be a remake. It would be outright theft, if you think about it. Now, the clones we have in the video games industry are usually more akin to slight mutations, evolution if you will, with each clone having its own set of ideas behind it, or at least a theme behind it that is different from the original. A great example of this again is the first-person shooter genre, because it began with Doom and then it continued with stuff like Heretic and Hexen and Blood and all sorts of other games that were mechanically and structurally the same, but when you play them, because of their different themes, their different aesthetics, their different approach to some things, they feel like they're not necessarily the exact same game as Doom, though functionally they are. The same can be said about a great many number of video games throughout the years. Well, all video game genres throughout the years. They are built upon a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, much like how life is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. And because there are flaws, because there are changes, some around there, you end up with a great wealth of diversity until something becomes really popular and then everybody tries to do the exact same thing. Now, what is the popular definition? Well, that would be copycat, rip-off, make something original. There is the impression in the general audience that when you're making a game that is similar to something else, you're just making a copy of it for profit. That's not a wrong opinion to have, because currently we do have a lot of games made specifically for profit that are just re-implementing an idea, or not even an idea, they're copy and pasting the exact same ideas in the exact same way that other more popular games have already established, or one in particular. We used to see that, well, we actually still see it a lot, in games that look exactly like Minecraft and play exactly the same but are worse because they don't have the know-how behind them to actually be that good. The ones that did have the know-how behind them evolved, so we got things like Space Engineers and Medieval Engineers, which are, in a way, technically kind of the same at a basic fundamental level of the idea, but they are so different, so evolved that you cannot really claim that they are copies. They're clones, imperfect ones, detached maybe with a few generations of the original, but they are based on the same idea as Minecraft. And this is true for how pretty much gaming began. Some of the oldest games that we have in the games industry, well, in the pre-games industry, in the mainframes of the universities, with their PDP-10s and their Plato systems, they were usually copies of a previous game. What began with someone creating a dungeon crawler that was based on Dungeons and Dragons on a mainframe quickly turned into a succession of clones of that exact same game, but each of them having certain bits tweaked, modified, while still essentially being the same game at their core, since they were developed in an age when open source was the only source, where collaborative development was what people did, where working off the original basis of somebody else's work was how things moved on. That's how we went from Colossal Cave Adventure to MUDs, and from MUDs to MMOs, and so on and so on and so on. Now, I may be stretching the term clone a bit when I'm referring to their evolution from Colossal Cave Adventure to World of Warcraft, but there are many intermediary steps where you got basically clones from one generation to the other. And then we also have the homage, the spiritual successor, which is an attempt to recreate a game that was once popular but now isn't so much. Nobody else is making them, so people will try to clone what was good about the original, sometimes even the flaws, sometimes understanding why some things would not work today, sometimes not, and the result is still kind of a clone, but again, much like with the other clones, it tends to be in the form of something that does have a bit of its own personality and its own flaws, and sometimes it's for better, sometimes it's for worse. So what is the marketing definition? Well, that is how genres proliferate. Also, we love bandwagons. You have to face the fact that bandwagons are a thing in video games. The industry is not well known for its, how shall I put this, willingness to stick out for its own creative ideas. It will latch on to anything that is popular and will try to refine it, improve it, and for the most part create a lot of not really great ones, awful, cheap cash-ins. I'm not including all the Flappy Bird clones in the video games industry because those were really mostly made by people that saw somebody getting rich and thought to themselves, you know what, I'm gonna do the exact same thing and I'm gonna be exactly as rich and I'm gonna be famous. And nobody was. We just got a billion Flappy Bird clones that nobody plays. That also happens in the industry when there's a craze. When there was the MOBA craze, you had a lot of them. Most of them didn't survive. When there was the zombie craze, you got a lot of them. You still kind of get a couple of them. When there was the GTA craze, the open world, get the car, run over the people craze, that was also a thing that people jumped on and then stopped because they realized, oh my god, making these is hella expensive. Now we're sort of in the wasn't The Witcher 3 great craze combined with oh my god, Fortnite is so big right now, we need to do something about it. What the hell is Pugba? We don't even know anymore. It's Fortnite we're after. Cloning will sometimes cause problems. It will make some people think that they can just work off somebody else's ideas without actually understanding those ideas. And it is all the more painful when it happens in a game series that was known for being its own thing, its own kind of game. When such a series is taken and grafted to a clone of something else, it becomes an outright travesty and a shame, a complete and utter Command and Conquer shaped shame. And you would think it'd be avoidable that the people in charge of those series, of those companies, will understand that maybe jumping on a bandwagon with a core franchise is not the greatest idea ever. And then you realize, oh my god, those people, they didn't get there because they're great at what they're doing. They got there because they knew somebody that worked there. And then everything makes sense. And it becomes even sadder. So closes another edition of the Gaming Codex. Come back next time when we will talk about a brand new subject. Goodbye.